This is Mystery MTG Damien, and let me help you become more informed about competitive Magic. Let's jump into it. It was a very busy weekend in the competitive Magic tournament scene, with not one, not two, not three, but 4 regional championship tournaments all happening on the same weekend. Now, the format for the regional championships this time around is Pioneer, which means we have a ton of Pioneer data to go over, as well as a few sweet deck lists, so let's get into a few of them right now. Dimir Rogues. Dimir Rogues was a deck that traumatized Standard for months while it was legal in that format, and now that it's moved on to Pioneer, it seems it still has some steam left. It is an aggro-tempo deck, which seeks to put just 1 or 2 cheap evasive threats on the battlefield, often at instant speed, and then protect them with counter magic and disruption. New March of the Machine battle, Invasion of Amonkhet, is an excellent addition to the deck, providing card advantage and being very easy to flip using the deck's evasive attackers. Unlike its standard predecessor, this deck isn't going quite so hard on the mill plan, relying on Thoughtseize and removal spells to fill up the opponent's graveyards in order to power up Drown in the Loch and the various rogues that care about said graveyards, such as Thieves Guild Enforcer, Merfolk Windrobber, Soaring Thought Thief, and Nighthawk Scavenger. The incidental milling of your opponents also turns on the backside of Invasion of Amonkhet, as well as the one of Haymaker Zareth San, the Trickster, who can come down mid-combat via his pseudo-ninjutsu ability to cheat a huge permanent from the graveyard into play. If you want to put a cheap, powerful Pioneer deck together for a tournament near you, get some practice in with Dimir Rogues, and then go rob your opponents of their wins. Azorius Lotus Field Control. Many players tend to forget that there are actually 2 Azorius control decks that exist in Pioneer, as the Lotus Field version generally doesn't see as much play. However, when you are expecting your opponents to play a lot of things that trigger when they enter the battlefield, Strict Proctor becomes an all-star, and the Lotus Field version of Azorius Control becomes favored. Ostensibly, the Strict Proctors are in the deck to negate your own Lotus Field triggers in order for the deck to play the triple mana producing land without paying the steep enter the battlefield cost, allowing this control deck to ramp into 6 or more mana as early as turn 4 and start deploying Planeswalkers with counter magic backup or flashing back Memory Deluge much earlier than should be possible. Discontinuity fills the same role here, allowing you to pay just 2 mana to immediately end the turn with the Lotus Field trigger on the stack, effectively cancelling it and letting you get away with not sacrificing 2 lands. Once you have a couple Lotus Fields in play, Discontinuity becomes a very powerful counterspell/time walk hybrid card in the later stages of the game when you have the mana to deploy it on your opponent's turn. An interesting choice was made to run 4 copies of Doomscar as the main sweeper here instead of Supreme Verdict, due to the foretell ability of Doomscar allowing it to come down on turn 3. Moving the rest of the counter magic to the board allows the deck to run main deck Dream Trawler as a finisher, which is particularly good against format Boogeyman Rakdos midrange, as well as a singleton Finale of Revelation as an insurance policy to make sure the deck doesn't mill itself while trying to end the opponent, especially in the mirror. If you enjoy the control archetype, this is a very powerful list that is clearly capable of taking down any large tournament, and one I would recommend you get plenty of practice with, since knowledge of the metagame and what you expect to face is the key to success with control. Enigmatic Fires. One of the few decks playing more than 2 colors, Enigmatic Fires is a Karuga companion deck that gets its name from its 2 key cards, Enigmatic Incarnation and Fires of Invention. The first is an engine piece that allows the pilot to sacrifice an enchantment to find and put a creature into play from your deck. This is obviously very powerful when you can play a 1-mana Leyline Binding on the opponent's end step, then turn it into a 7-mana monster on your end step by sacrificing it to fetch Atraxa Grand Unifier, Dragonlord Atarka, or Koma Cosmos Serpent. Sacrificing smaller enchantments like Fable of the Mirror Breaker or Touch the Spirit Realm, or even extra copies of Fires of Invention or another Enigmatic Incarnation, can also provide insane value by tutoring up any number of powerful threats at 4 and 5 mana, such as Sholdred the Apocalypse, Kenrith the Returned King, or Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. With a toolbox of legendary creatures to choose from, the deck can usually find an answer for any situation it may find itself in, while the sideboard provides extra hate cards against graveyard-based decks in Leyline of the Void, or control decks via Thought Distortion and a playset of Mystical Dispute. A resilient, powerful deck that can still easily win without the aid of its combo pieces, the Enigmatic Fires deck only suffers when it comes to its mana base, which requires learning how to sequence tri-lands properly in order to cast your spells on time and not fall too far behind. Pick this deck up if you enjoy toolbox-style decks, playing big, splashy powerhouse cards, and go crush your local tournament scene. Gruul Vehicles. A relatively new deck in the Pioneer metagame, Gruul Vehicles is an aggressive mid-range deck that starts with a pile of efficiently costed creatures with built-in card advantage, like Bonecrusher Giant, Lovestruck Beast, and Miglaw's Maze Crusher, enabled by the 8 1-mana elves to help dump your hand onto the board even faster. This often allows the deck to snowball too far out of control for your opponents to come back from. Esika's Chariot is a difficult-to-deal-with threat at the top of the curve, especially when given haste via Reckless Stormseeker. The Akroan War is the other card at 4 mana, taking your opponent's best blocker, which makes it very difficult for them to blunt your assault. New additions to the deck from March of the Machine include Invasion of Ixalan to provide card advantage as well as an additional threat if flipped, and Voldaren Thrillseeker to help pump the team and provide the reach needed to burn the opponent out once you've put them low enough on life. The Singleton Sky Sovereign console flagship is another way to go over the top in order to finish the opponent off, and along with Esika's Chariot is what gives the deck its name. Getting to play a free companion in Jegantha the Wellspring, as well as additional powerful surprises like Embercleave in the sideboard, took this deck to a victory at the regional championships in the US this past weekend. Will it be able to continue performing well with a target on its back? We'll see as the Pioneer season continues.